likes Jason Garrett and believes in the coaching staff. So Tony Gonzalez, greatest tight end of all time, NFL on Fox analyst, joined us earlier, and I asked him about the Cowboys.
After last year's success, Jerry Jones coming into this year, I'm sure was like optimistic that we're going to make a Super Bowl push just like we did last year. Hasn't turned out that way. I would be surprised. If some changes aren't made from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint, because it does need to happen. It absolutely needs to happen.
All right, I'm going to have two pieces of sound for you, which are awesome, are incredible. I want to get to the Earl Thomas thing in a second, but I don't know if you heard this. This was Dak after the game talking about Dez and Dez, wanting the ball more. Remember, Dez was complaining on the sideline, then he got the ball, then he fumbled the very next catch he had. Take a listen to what Dak says about Dez.
I think I have to throw him a better ball. I mean, just put it right there on his face mask, and don't give him a chance to drop it, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love that right there.
Wait, do you think Dez loves that? Like, he's like, look, you gotta throw it. He essentially called him, was it Featherstone from Necessary Roughness?
Yeah. Don't throw it to Stone Hands. That's what it is.
That's what he calls it. He's like, I can't give him a chance to drop it. I gotta throw it right to his face mask. Does that happen? Have you heard that happen in a post-game press conference between quarterback and star wide receiver?
I cannot remember hearing that. But here's the deal with Dez Bryant right now. He is that old, that band that put out a couple hits, that singer, and is getting a little old now and can't hit those notes anymore. It's over. Like, he needs to pivot. He needs to change. What if I were him? Because he's still fast and he's still strong. He's not that big play receiver. Just like Larry Fitzgerald changed his role.
Went into the slot.
Moving to the slot. But you need an IQ for this, a football IQ. And I'm not saying Dez doesn't have it, but he needs to, this offseason.
I'll say it.
Study a lot of film. Because just like you said, I know right now, not for a fact, but I'm pretty sure of myself. If I went to the NFL and he gave me a couple months to get my body in shape, I can go catch 50 balls right now just by reading an offense. I'm not as fast as I was or as strong as I was. He could put him in the slot. He could still be a productive player between 60 and 75 balls from the slot, catching big, tough balls in crowds. Because that's what he can do.
That takes a sacrifice of ego. Okay, Earl Thomas goes into the locker room of the Dallas Cowboys, puts his arm around the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and says, come get me. Then when asked about it afterwards, if you haven't heard it, here's Earl Thomas when questioned about it after the game.
I went to the locker room to talk to Dez, and I saw Coach Garrett, and, I've always been a Cowboys fan growing up. But the biggest thing that, when I say come get me is, I don't literally mean, like, come get me now. I'm still in the prime of my career. I still want to be here. But when Seattle kicked me to the curb, please, the Cowboys, come get me. That's the only place I would rather be, if I get kicked to the curb. So that's what I meant by it.
Mm-hmm. No, you got a problem with that? You got a problem with that? Why?
He's still on the Seahawks. They're still in the playoff hunt.
Yes. Well, he said not right now. I believe I have done this before. I've done this before where I go up to guys from the other teams. Hey, come get me now. My contract's up. We're not,
wait, when did you do this?
I've done it while I was out in Kansas City. I've done it. But we weren't that good. And, my contract's coming up. You never know. They might not want me back. First of all, they'll cut you in a second. Let's make no mistake. All those Seattle fans out there that are outraged thinking, where's the loyalty? Understand this. There is no loyalty this is a business. And yes, we enjoy our time where we're playing, but looking at the Cowboys, like, come get me. Why not? I have no problem with that.
I have no problem with you texting somebody, or if you're boys with Dez, telling Dez, hey, tell those guys I want to be here. But while still in a Seahawks uniform, after the Seahawks just eliminated the Cowboys and the Seahawks season is still alive in terms of playoff hunt, going up where there's cameras, there's microphones, like, come on, man, you can't do that. Like, you might have done it, but you didn't do it in a playoff hunt after you just eliminated the other team, did you?
Maybe the timing was off, but the intention is fine by me because he's also seeing something. This is also, what do you think Earl's seeing in that locker room? What do you think's going on in Seattle? He sees the future coming. He wants to be competitive.
No question. He's a competitor, and he wants to keep playing. And remember, last week, Bobby Wagner called him out on Twitter, and I'm sure there's some of that to it. It still doesn't make it okay. It's a wow. It's a snapshot into the dysfunction within the Seahawks, right? There's no way, as much as they lack health, as much as they have issues with offensive line, the fact is that a win over the Dallas Cowboys does not hide the fact they were down 40-0 to the Rams at home, or the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars beat their tails and then beat them in a fight going back the week before. Like, that's who the Seahawks are. And the only possible conclusion you could make as to why the Seahawks have massively underachieved, aside from the injuries they have, is that this is the type of dudes they have in the locker room that cannot wait to get out of that locker room because they know the end is near. They know the Grim Reaper cuts are coming. Bruce Arians is going to retire at the end of the season. It was announced earlier today from the Arizona Cardinals. And Arians, we talked about this a little bit earlier, Holly, that it's the interesting butterfly effect. What had happened had Chuck Pagano not come back to the Indianapolis Colts? Right? Remember Chuck Pagano, Chuck Strong, had cancer, left the team to fight cancer. The team kind of in his honor, when Bruce Arians was the interim head coach, went to the playoffs. And if you look at Bruce Arians' track record, he's done an incredible job with young quarterbacks, Luck, and even before that, Ben Roethlisberger. And since then, as head coach of the Cardinals, resurrecting Carson Palmer's career. I was thinking about, do you like Curb? Are you Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember when Larry David left his girlfriend because she was diagnosed with cancer, right?
Yes.
Larry's dating Loretta Black.
Yes.
And things aren't going so great, but he really wants to get back with Cheryl. Mm-hmm. And Loretta's sick, and there's a chance she may have cancer, so he wanted to break up with Loretta before they got the diagnosis. Remember that?
Yes.
Right? Like, it's a sick and twisted look.
Sure.
One into the mind of Larry David.
But that's Larry David, yeah.
Right, but it's kind of, like, you can't, boy, the Colts, if they could have it to do all over again, would there be a way in which they could have given Chuck Pagano a job that sounds like it's a great job above that of head coach, but it's not really head coach, so they could have held on to Bruce Arians? How would their future, how would how would we view Andrew Luck differently now? Would he have been hurt? I don't know. Would his offenses have been more prolific? The answer is probably.
Right.
I mean, they have completely mismanaged, mishandled, misappropriated their draft picks, trying to surround and support Andrew Luck. Changed offensive coordinators mid-season, go back a couple years ago. How would that have changed? And it brought to mind that Curb episode. Still, the greatest Curb episode is the one in which he got the hookers so they could drive in the HOV lane to get up to the Dodger game at Dodger Stadium. Like, that's amazing. What would you do to drive in the carpool?
Do you like Curb or Seinfeld better?
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld's the best of all time.
It is. And what I find amazing about Seinfeld is I like to think I've seen every Seinfeld, and every once in a while, late at night, my wife's asleep, and I turn
TBS.
on Seinfeld, and I just DVR or whatever. I turn on the Seinfeld. I'm like, I have not seen that one, or I did not recognize this scene from that one previously.
And the first season didn't really work. It wasn't really great.
The roles were different. The roles were different.
Yeah.
George was kind of a playboy in that, and then they made George kind of haplessly, helplessly.
He makes the show, and that's Larry David, right? Isn't his character Larry David?
I believe so. Yes, but they kind of changed his role. And they changed Kramer as well. I don't know. I think they all make it.
What did he say? He's like, well, if I had known that, it wasn't okay, when he was talking about the housekeeper or whatever at the office.
Yes.
Well,
Was that
if you knew I frowned
Is that
upon
wrong? Is that frowned upon? Should I not have done that? The greatest Costanza line of all time is, it's not a lie if you believe it.
If you believe it, yeah.
If you believe it. It could go down as the worst trade in the NFL. And it just today just so happens to mark the anniversary of the worst